First Nation is pleased to host Frank Christopher Busch, author of Grey Eyes. He grew up in northern Manitoba and was educated at the University of Manitoba. He has spent most of his career working in the Aboriginal community, mainly in finance and accounting. Frank describes himself as an Aboriginal father, husband, warrior, author, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. His spiritual teachings mainly come from his Cree, Ojibwe, and Dakota elders. Please give a warm Aboriginal Day welcome to Frank Christopher Busch.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. My name is Frank Christopher Busch. I'm a member of the Nitchishwayassee Cree Nation in Northern Manitoba, and I'm the author of Grey Eyes. So if you haven't heard of Grey Eyes, you're probably not alone. It's this book right here, and it actually will not hit the store shelves until September. So this is kind of a pre-release sneak peek. I've never actually done a reading of the book. It is my first novel. And I'm very happy that people are here to kind of share in it and give me an opportunity to start welcoming the world to my story. So the spirits know me as Salanang Meet the Noten, South Summer Wind, and I'm from the Bear Clan. I wrote this book in response to a message I received over and over from residential school survivors, and what they would tell me often as I worked through the Indian Residential School Settlement Agreement was that they just wanted to get their culture back. That was kind of the key to reconciliation with the devastating effects of the residential schools. I'm reminded of a teaching that was given to me by one of my elders. Take only what you need and leave the rest as you found it. In giving you a reading today, I hope this will be the teaching applied. It was my hope in creating this work that there be a little something for everyone. If not for you to learn something you didn't already know, then to strengthen your faith and conviction in that which you do believe. Whether it parallels what I believe in, or if it's different, there's room in this world for all belief systems. If we all practice tolerance, then together we can achieve harmony. I'd like to begin our time together with a teaching that I was given that is fundamental to my belief system. 19 generations ago, our world was in chaos. Our people were at war with one another. The strong preyed upon the weak. The intelligent took advantage of the simple. Elders who could not find food were left to starve. It was a time of sickness and suffering. Everyone cared only for themselves and those few close to them who they believed could do something for them. The frightened people of Turtle Island prayed for help, and it came in a very unexpected way. Two brothers were walking along a path. They were hungry, they were afraid, and they had no place to call home. They talked to one another about the state of affairs in the world, and they wished there was something they could do to bring healing to the land and the people. As they walked, they saw something up ahead. It stopped them in their tracks. It was a white buffalo calf. They knew in an instant that this was a sacred animal. As it approached them, it transformed into a young woman wearing a white dress. We know her today as the white buffalo calf woman. Now the elder brother took one look at her and decided that he wanted to have her. Not as a friend, not as a sister, and not as a wife. As their eyes met, he felt her power. He burst into flames and was immediately destroyed. The younger brother lowered his eyes out of respect, for he knew in his heart that a person is more than what they appear to be on the outside. Whatever he may think of her appearance, he must respect her. Her appearance belonged to her and her alone. Her body belonged to her and her alone. She approached him and raised her hands to the sky. In her arms, she held the very first peace pipe, the white buffalo calf pipe. It was a teaching pipe, and when she gave it to him, she also gave him the 7 sacred teachings: respect, love, courage, humility, honesty, truth, and wisdom. She instructed him to seek out the 7 sacred animals who could teach him these things. The buffalo teaches respect. The eagle teaches love. The bear teaches courage. The wolf teaches humility. The Sasquatch teaches honesty. The turtle teaches truth. And the beaver teaches wisdom. He was instructed to take the pipe to the people and share with them the 7 sacred teachings. And as the people learned them, the land was reborn. Individuals formed families. Families formed clans. Clans formed villages. Villages became nations. This story is the basis of our spirituality and our most fundamental beliefs. Chief Orville Looking Horse is the 19th generation keeper of the White Buffalo Calf Pipe. All my relations. I initially wrote Grey Eyes as a way of passing on what little wisdom I gathered onto my children, as is my right as a parent. I seek only to share with you the knowledge I am choosing to pass on to them. You may choose to share this knowledge with those close to you, or you may ignore it and walk away. That is your right. And so I'd like to read for you a selection of excerpts from the novel for your consideration. Chapter 1. The old man fought his way home through deep snow. Beneath a ragged buffalo skin robe, he wore a buckskin shirt and leggings. Once adorned with intricate flower and vine quill work, the shirt was now bare, the leather scuffed and scratched. His long gray hair worn half loose and half braided, to show he was still in mourning. "Ichi Manitou," he called out in prayer. "It is your servant, the one they call Painted Turtle Man. Thank you for letting me be alive to see this day. You have given me so many days upon Mother Earth for which I am grateful. I am ashamed to ask you for just one more, so that I can live to see the miracle you have promised." The wind howled. There were not enough hides to keep out the cold, not enough meat to stave off hunger. He had walked long and far to check his snares, which he had been forced to set further and further from the village. This was a job for a much younger warrior, but Kichi Manitou had given the old man a task of the highest importance. He had to do it himself. With his right hand, he clung to the tattered robe, his only refuge from the icy grip of Old Man Winter. In his left hand, he carried the body of a half-starved rabbit, the fruit of his labor. Last night, he had been forced to dig a hole in the snow for shelter, so he was desperate to make it home tonight. He thought about crossing the frozen lake to save time, but the wisdom his years had earned him argued against it. The open wind of the lake would cut right through him and his shoddy robe. If his old joints locked up on him out there, he would surely die and his family would starve. From the edge of the forest, by the shores of the lake, he could see the circle of hide-covered lodges. Nichissawayasi, the place where 3 rivers meet. His people were the Nahiawak, the 2-legged ones. The land did not belong to them, but they to the land. As Painted Turtle Man approached, he heard something, a woman wailing and moaning against the beat of a drum. The heaviness in his heart lifted. He was not too late. A scream ripped through the cold winter night. The cold lodges continued to flicker their firelight as though not to notice or care. Wind whistling through pines was the only answer to the sound. The inhabitants of the other lodges remained quiet, both out of respect for Kichi Manitou's coming blessing and out of fear for the danger to mother and child. "Throw some more wood on the fire," commanded the old man casually, still trying to shake the cold out of his bones. "Much," replied Walking Moon Woman, the matriarch, who fired a quick frown at him. "We don't have much wood left." "Wood?" scoffed Painted Turtle Man. "Do you think we need wood to stay warm when our clan's gray-eyed boy is born?" Silence gouged the tattered lodge. Even the expectant mother was quieted at the prospect. The Bear clan had not produced a gray eye in over 3 generations. The other clans in Nichissawayasi had begun to murmur that there was no magic left amongst the Bears. To them, the notion that the child about to be born was a gray eye was at best an old fool's fantasy, at worst, a cruel joke. Painted Turtle Man was the only one among them, besides Walking Moon Woman, who had seen the last gray eye of the Bear clan, and had felt his magic as a boy. He had been called Grey Bear, and they said his magic had no limits. Grey Bear had raised the Bear clan to prominence in his time, using the Grey Eye magic to help all of the Nahiawak. Grey Bear's magic was a distant legend now, as the cold bit at the Bear clan, and hunger in their bellies robbed them of sleep. Of the people of Nichissawayasi, only the Eagle clan possessed the Grey-Eyed magic. They alone kept the Nahiawak safe. Blue Elk Man, the expectant father, stood up with difficulty and took the old man's arm and sat him down next to the fire. "I know you mean well, but this is not the time for such words. My wife, White Willow Woman, must not have any distraction from her purpose, he spoke in a hushed voice. The two other women frowned at the old man while White Willow Woman prepared herself for the next contraction. Do you doubt my dreams? Do you no longer believe I have the sacred sight? Painted Turtle Man asked, locking his eyes on the warrior. Much, uncle, it's not that. Blue Elk Man lowered his eyes out of respect. I am her mother's cousin, Painted Turtle Man said, speaking of Walking Moon Woman. I was best friend to her father. I made a vow the day he was killed by the Red Eye that I would give his descendants the teaching. Who took you to the Sweat Lodge? Who sponsored you in the Sundance? Who taught you the medicine wheel? Painted Turtle Man paused to compose himself. He regretted mentioning the Red Eyes, from whom the Nahiwak truly needed protection. Only the Grey Eye magic used in the proper manner could keep the Red Eye evil at bay. No one in Ichiswayasik wanted to acknowledge that the Eagle Clan's Grey Eye had grown old, and that her time on Mother Earth was nearing its end. Painted Turtle Man's prophecy forced them to face this fact. Rather than face it, they chose to push him away. Some in the village even suggested his journey might end out on the frozen lake on the long walk. Dakwe, Blue Elk Man capitulated, lowering his head. It was you, uncle, and I am forever grateful. I just don't want any of us to get false hope if it's not the will of Kichimanatu. A sudden scream from White Willow Woman silenced the men. Baby is coming, Walking Moon Woman shouted. Blue Elk Man took his place behind his wife, singing softly in her ear and supporting her body with his strong arms as he clutched the lodge poles. With a final forceful growl, White Willow Woman collapsed backwards into her husband's arm as the cry of the newborn baby filled the night. The sound of the new voice could be heard by all the Nihiwak of the village. The women of Ichiswayasik ululated as one, though not as enthusiastic as they might have for a wealthier clan. Eko say, Old Walking Woman said casually, it's a boy. The women were grateful for the new addition, but they tried not to show their disappointment. The Bear Clan would need a female heir if it was to survive in Ichiswayasik. Dakwe, I knew it, the old man said. What color are his eyes? He pushed forward, but Brown Shield Man stopped him. Let him breathe a bit, he held the old man back gently. The baby continued to cry, eyes tightly shut, as the old matriarch washed his body with the cool water and the icy wind slipped through the tattered hides. The spirit of our grandmother bear will need to be with him this winter if he is to have a chance, prayed Walking Moon Woman as she wrapped him in a fur. She handed the bundle to a weary White Willow Woman. I know you have given so much, my girl, said Walking Moon Woman, but now you must give more. She positioned the baby at his mother's breast. He latched onto her immediately, suckling hungrily. At the sight of this most sacred moment between mother and child, the Bear Clan forgot all of their troubles. A tear escaped from Blue Elk Man's eyes as he stared in wonder at his newborn son. The baby seemed satisfied for a brief moment, but began to shiver against the cold. The shiver seemed to touch the entire family, snapping them all back to the reality of their poverty. Again, they were reminded of their misfortunes and the hunger in their bellies. In a panic, the three women looked at each other and knew what the others were thinking. Would her milk hold up? Only one among them was not concerned about their situation. He craned his neck over Singing Doe and Brown Shield Man and tried desperately to see the baby up close. What color are his eyes? Painted Turtle Man's voice rose as he asked again, more forcefully this time. Now that Old Walking Moon Woman was no longer occupied with the birth, she was ready to unleash her anger at her old cousin. For months he had been telling everyone in Ichiswayasik that White Willow Woman would give birth to a Grey Eye who would have great magic. She spun at him with a look that could pierce the heart of even the bravest warrior. Echo say, she snapped, I'm terribly tired of your... A change in the air stopped her. The lodge suddenly felt warm, as though something deflected the wind from the outer walls. What is happening? Asked Brown Shield Man to no one in particular. I can hear the wind, but it does not seem to reach us. The fire grew in size without any more wood being added, burning bright and warm as if by its own choice. The dried roots, herbs, and other medicine hanging from the lodge